So I've just watched the first episode of the new Netflix series Ancient Apocalypse, which features the work and theories of the controversial writer Graham Hancock. The first episode saw the author, who says he writes as a journalist who is investigating the subject of human prehistory, setting out on his globe-spanning adventure in Indonesia. He claims that human beings have amnesia about their true past and says there was a previous advanced civilization in the Ice Age that has since been forgotten after a cataclysmic event. This obviously calls to mind the fate of the mythical Atlantis and the biblical Great Flood, which is seemingly replicated in other traditions aside from Judeo-Christianity. I must say that I like Graham. He comes across as passionate and persuasive to a point. I am open-minded enough to hear him out and consider his findings. There are undoubtedly mysteries abound about our history, as new discoveries are being made all the time. And as someone with a fascination for the Stone Age eras of the Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic, I never cease to be amazed at what supposedly primitive peoples achieved, built and made in what must have been incredibly difficult environments. It is often overlooked, I think, that these were people who would have had the exact same abilities to formulate hopes and dreams as us, but perhaps not the time or capacity to work towards achieving or realising them. It might sound strange, but I occasionally think about Neanderthals and actually feel sorry for them. They too were more advanced than we've been led to believe until very recently. Their entire species, which were sexually compatible with modern humans and thereby very closely related to us, were wiped out. Imagine being the last of a group of Neanderthals, like those in a cave in Gibraltar, seeing the end of your entire species. And I know that because of that compatibility with us, they did carry on in the mixed offspring whose descendants are still with us today, especially in Europe, but it's a stark thing to consider, that oblivion. I once read Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Daniken, who made wild, unfounded claims about aliens building everything he could not instantly explain. The book would trot out a potted history of a mysterious ancient place or object, highlight why it shouldn't or couldn't actually exist despite it being there, and then neatly finish by suggesting aliens could have done it. This show is not that. It treats its viewer with more credit, although there are the flashy graphics and quick editing one might expect from something aimed at viewers with a short attention span. That aside, and despite the criticism Graham Hancock receives from mainstream archaeology, I think he's important, because like my occasional mental forays into the grim last days of Homo neanderthalensis, he makes you think. And if archaeology and established historical narratives are so watertight, they won't be worried by someone challenging them, will they? Science is, or rather should be, about constant questioning. That is something that has perhaps been forgotten of late, and it is no bad thing to be reminded of that. I'll paraphrase the late Christopher Hitchens, who once warned against what he called the false security of consensus, and asked rhetorically, "Why do you think you know what you know?" And to quote him directly, "How do I know that I know this, except that I have always been taught this and never heard anything else? It's always worth establishing first principles." For my part, I'll probably revisit this series on the channel when I've watched all the episodes, as this was simply my first impression. On this limited evidence, though, it's well worth a watch. And if it gets mainstream audiences interested in ancient history, then it will have performed a real service. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.